Have you ever wondered what the Cold War was and why it was so significant? Picture this: a world divided not by a physical war with battles fought on the battlefield, but by an ideological, political, and economic struggle. This was the Cold War, a clash of titans that spanned nearly 5 decades. At one end, we had the United States, a beacon of capitalism and democracy. On the other, the Soviet Union, a stronghold of communism and state control. From the ashes of the Second World War, these two superpowers emerged, each with its own vision for the world's future. This wasn't a war in the traditional sense. No, it was a chess game on a global scale, with each side vying for dominance, spreading their influence, and trying to outdo the other in every field, from economics to politics, science, and even space exploration. The Cold War was much more than a battle of ideologies. It was a period that shaped the world as we know it today. Every story has a beginning. The Cold War started not on a battlefield, but at the end of World War II. As the dust of World War II settled in 1945, the world was left with two dominant powers, the United States and the Soviet Union. These two nations had different visions for the future, rooted in contrasting ideologies. The United States championed capitalism, a system favoring free trade and private ownership, while the Soviet Union was a bastion of communism, where the state controlled the economy and property. This clash of ideologies laid the foundation of the Cold War. Our journey takes us back to the Yalta and Potsdam conferences held in 1945. These meetings between the Allies were meant to decide the post-war reconstruction of Europe. However, disagreements emerged, deepening mistrust and setting the stage for future conflicts. Fast forward to 1946, when Winston Churchill delivered his famous Iron Curtain speech. He highlighted the division of Europe into capitalist West and communist East, marking the symbolic beginning of the Cold War. Next, we moved to 1947 and 48, when the United States unrolled the Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan. These policies were designed to contain the spread of communism and help rebuild war-torn Europe economically. They were seen by the Soviets as a direct threat, further escalating tensions. Finally, we reached the Berlin blockade and airlift of 1948 and 49. The Soviet Union blocked all ground access to West Berlin, hoping to starve the city into submission. In response, the Allies organized the Berlin airlift, supplying the city by air for nearly a year. This episode demonstrated the resolve of both sides, setting the tone for the rest of the Cold War. These events set the stage for a global struggle that would last for nearly 5 decades. As we continue our journey, we'll explore the key events that defined this era, shaping the world as we know it today. Stay tuned. The Cold War was marked by a series of significant events that escalated tensions and shaped global politics. As we delve deeper into the Cold War, we encounter an intricate sequence of events that would forever shape the contours of world history. At the heart of this was the formation of NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, in 1949. This military alliance, led by the United States, was a collective response to the perceived threat of Soviet expansion. Not to be outdone, the Soviet Union established its own counterpart, the Warsaw Pact, solidifying the division of Europe into the Western and Eastern blocs. The tensions soon spilled beyond the borders of Europe. The Korean War, which erupted in 1950 and lasted till 1953, and the Vietnam War, which spanned 2 decades from 1955 to 1975, were proxy conflicts. The US and USSR, without directly engaging in combat, supported opposing sides, underscoring the global reach of the Cold War. In 1962, the world held its breath as the Cuban Missile Crisis unfolded. Soviet missiles stationed 90 miles off the coast of Florida brought the world to the precipice of nuclear war. For 13 days, the US and USSR engaged in a tense standoff. Thankfully, diplomacy prevailed, and the crisis was resolved without resorting to nuclear weapons. The competition between the superpowers was not just limited to military might. The space race, spanning from 1957 to 1975, was a testament to their technological rivalry. The launch of Sputnik by the Soviets, followed by the Apollo moon landing by the Americans, were symbolic victories in this battle for supremacy. However, the Cold War was not just a continuous escalation of tensions. There were periods of détente or thawing relations, particularly in the 60s and 70s. The signing of several arms control treaties, like the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks or SALT, aimed to put a cap on the arms race and ease the mounting tension. But the détente proved short-lived. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 strained relations yet again. The United States, in response, supported the Afghan resistance fighters, further muddying the geopolitical waters. In the early 80s, the rhetoric escalated with President Reagan's Evil Empire speech, where he denounced the Soviet Union. His strategic defense initiative, dubbed Star Wars, aimed at developing a sophisticated anti-ballistic missile system, reignited the arms race, and increased tensions in the late Cold War years. But as the 80s drew to a close, the winds of change began to blow. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 was a momentous event, signaling the beginning of the end of the Cold War. It was a symbolic victory for freedom and a crushing blow to the Iron Curtain that had divided Europe for so long. This was followed by the ultimate coup de grace, the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. The once mighty superpower crumbled, marking the end of the Cold War era and signifying the victory of Western capitalism over communism. Each of these events brought the world closer to the brink of disaster, but also paved the way for the eventual end of the Cold War. Thus, as we reflect on these key events, we realize that the Cold War was not just a period of tension and rivalry. It was a complex dance of power, ideology, and diplomacy, where each step, each move, had far-reaching implications. It shaped the world we live in today and continues to influence global politics and international relations. The end of the Cold War did not mean the end of its effects. This intricate era of global tension and rivalry, stretching across nearly 5 decades, has left an indelible mark on the world's geopolitical landscape, influencing international relations to this day. The ideological struggle between capitalism and communism, embodied in the United States and the Soviet Union, changed the world in ways far more profound than the physical borders it created. It shaped our understanding of freedom, democracy, and economic systems, casting long shadows over how nations interact, negotiate, and often confront one another. This period also accelerated technological advancements. The space race, for instance, was more than just a competition for supremacy in space exploration. It was a testament to human innovation and resolve, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. The technological leaps made during this time continue to impact our lives, from satellite communications to GPS systems. Beyond technology, the Cold War reshaped political landscapes. The formation of military alliances like NATO and the Warsaw Pact, the establishment of the United Nations, the rise of non-aligned nations, and the decolonization process in Africa and Asia, all these were influenced by the dynamics of the Cold War. Moreover, the Cold War's legacy is visible in ongoing international conflicts. Many of today's geopolitical tensions, from the Middle East to the Korean Peninsula, have roots in the Cold War era. The strategies employed, the alliances formed, and the divisions sown during this period continue to reverberate in our contemporary world. Lastly, the end of the Cold War marked the triumph of liberal democracy over communism, at least on the surface. However, the ideological debates continue, with competing visions of governance, economy, and society still shaping global politics. The Cold War may be over, but its legacy continues to shape our world today. It's a testament to the enduring impact of ideological rivalities and the complexities of global politics. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history.